Hi guys. Now I know you may have found yesterday's maths tricky, and that's why we're going to continue with it, and you're going to see a lot of the same slides again to really home in on those and to really help you learn them. So today we are looking again at how to convert measurements involving length. Yesterday we looked at centimetres and millimetres, so today we're going to go slightly bigger with our units. Okay, so just to remind you again, multiplying by 10 and multiplying by 10 again is the same as multiplying by 100. Multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10 again is the same as multiplying by 1,000. And that's also the same as multiplying by 10 and then multiplying by 100, because that 100 is the 10 times 10. So dividing by 10 again is the same as dividing by 100. Dividing by 10 and then dividing by 10 and then dividing by 10 again is the same as dividing by 1,000. And you know what's coming up? Dividing by 10 and then dividing by 100 is also the same as dividing by 100. So think of it in terms of your place value chart. If I were to multiply 7.2 by 10, my 7 would move one place to here and my 2 would jump out the decimal to here. But if I were to multiply it by 10 and then multiply that by 10, my 7 would move to the hundreds, the 2 would move to the tens, and then I'd need a placeholder. And that's the same as multiplying 7.2 by 100. So 10 and then 10 again is the same as multiplying it by 100. And then if I did another 10, so the 7 ends up in the 1,000 column, it would be the same as multiplying by 10 and then 10 and then 10 again, or 10 and then 100. And then exactly the same, but working backwards with division. Right. Do you remember we looked at these a lot yesterday? So to convert from a smaller unit to a larger unit, so if I want to change millimetres to centimetres, I need to divide. Okay, millimetres to centimetres, I divide. Or centimetres to metres, I divide. Or metres to kilometres, I divide. So if you start with the smaller and you want to find out the bigger, you divide. But if you start with the bigger and you want to find the smaller, you multiply. So yesterday, when we started with centimetres and we wanted to find out the millimetres, we had to multiply. So if we had, for example, 3 centimetres and we wanted to find that in millimetres, because there are 10 of them in a centimetre, we had to multiply by 10. Okay, so to go from the bigger to the smaller, you multiply. So just say this with me after me. To convert from a smaller unit to a large unit, you divide. To convert from a larger unit to a smaller unit, you multiply. Okay, we're going to look at that again tomorrow. Okay, and here's the last one that I'm going to remind you of, which are the units that we're going to be looking at. Centilitres, not so much in capacity. This week we're looking at the bottom one, which is length. Well, most of this week anyway, not Friday, but most of this week. And of course, the one that we've missed out is that 1 centimetre is the same as 10 millimetres. And that's quite important as well. That's what you did yesterday. So in a kilometre, there are 1,000 metres. In a metre, there are 100 centimetres or 1,000 millimetres. And in a centimetre, there are 10 millimetres. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of revision from yesterday. So let's look at this first question. Write in centimetres, 29 millimetres. So we're going from a smaller unit and we want to convert it to the larger unit. What do we do then? Multiply or divide? We divide. Smaller to larger, we divide. What are we dividing by? There are 10 millimetres in 1 centimetre, so we're going to divide by 10. Okay, so 29 divided by 10. So if I were to draw a place value chart up here, with my beautiful straight lines, of course, that I can draw. Okay, we've got our decimal point here, which means there'll definitely be a decimal point there. Here we've got our tenths, which means we've got ones and tens there. We won't need to go more than that for the moment. So we're starting with 29, aren't we? And we need to divide that by 10 because there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. So my 9 is going to jump over the decimal into the tenths. Our decimal place will still be there, and our 2 is going to move into the ones, which means 29 millimeters is 2.9 centimeters. Okay, try 290 millimeters. We're still going from millimeters to centimeters, so you're still only dividing by 10. What's 290 divided by 10? Have a think. Remember, none of the digits change. We just move them about. And if there are zeros that we don't need, we can get rid of them, or we can use them instead as placeholders. So here, 290 divided by 10 is 29. So I've got 29 centimeters. Right, let's look. So now on the other side, we're going from millimeters to centimeters. So what are we doing this time? Millimeters to centimeters. We're going from smaller to bigger, which means we need to multiply. We're going to multiply this time. So how many are we going to multiply by? How many millimeters in a centimetre? We're going to multiply by 10. So can you tell me what 34 is multiplied by 10? Where will our digits end up? Our 3 is going to move to our hundreds, our 4 is going to move to our tens, and we're not quite done. What do we need? We need a placeholder. So that would be 340 millimeters. And the last one, 20.7. Okay, well, 20.7, we know what we've got to do. We've got to multiply. We've got to multiply by 10 because there are 10 millimeters in a centimetre. So 20.7, let's add to our place value. So we've got 20.7. We know we're multiplying by 10, so they're still only going to move one place to the left because we're getting bigger. That 0 has got to move this time, which means our 7 is going to go there. So we're going to have 207 millimeters. Okay, yesterday I showed you a picture of a ruler, and we spoke about that there were 10 millimeters in 1 centimetre. Do you remember that? 10 millimeters, which are the teeny tiny markers on 1 centimetre. And I'm just going to find a ruler to show you that actually. So here they are. I'm just going to hold up to the camera there. Actually, I need to show that end. Here they are here. You can see that, there we go, 1 centimetre. And can you see that's made up of 10 teeny tiny marks. So each of those is a millimetre. Okay. And then on the other side, if you turn it over, what you get here is it actually counts in millimetres. So it counts it up in 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. Okay, so that's on one of our 30 centimetres. And then your ones in your pencil cases are 15. But now you're looking at one of these. And this, I can just about get it across. This is a metre stick. And here you can see, if I hold this end up to the camera now, that we've got our centimetres again, but this time each of the smaller markers is actually worth a centimetre rather than a millimetre. And then it shows us our first marker here, which is 10 centimetres. And if you think about that in terms of our number line like this, each coloured block is worth 10 centimetres. Can you see? There's 20, the end of the colour block, 30, the end of the colour block, 40. Okay, so here we can see that in 1 metre there are how many centimetres? 100. So think back to yesterday when we learnt about those prefixes and the one cent. Do you remember cent? What was the meaning of cent? Cent meant 100, didn't it? And then centie, if you put the I on the end, that actually meant hundredth, a hundredth. Okay, so that's sort of talking about our 0.01 there for our hundredth. Okay, so cent being 100 means there are 100 centimetres in a metre, which is what I've just shown you on the stick. Okay, so let's have a look at this speech bubble again, and I've added a bit more information now. So the largest unit in this picture is a metre. That's the biggest unit we've got there, just in that particular picture. There is one of those on the stick. So there's 1 metre in this stick. If I show you the side with the measurements on, there is 1 metre in this stick. So this goes up to 100 centimetres, which is our 1 metre. There are smaller units, which are centimetres, which is what each of these are here. Each of these is a centimetre. But what's not shown on here, but you can also get them, are millimetres. So if you imagine each of these was split into 10, just like they are on this ruler, you would have, just like they are on the ruler there, you would have millimetres. So in that stick, our smaller units are centimetres and then millimetres. And in the picture, they've actually got the millimetres there. So there are 100, looking at the next bubble, there are 100 centimetres in each of these, and then 10 millimetres in each centimetre. So now we're doing our times in by 10, times in by 10 again. So we've got 100 times 10, and that will tell us how many millimetres we've got. So 100 centimetres, each of those having 10 millimetres. So if we do 100 times 10, that will tell us how many millimetres there are. Can you tell me? 100 times 10, the 1,000. There are 1,000 millimetres in a metre, and that's now we've got our prefix there, haven't we? Milli, because there are 1,000 of them in 1 metre. Okay, 1,000 millimetres in a metre. There's our 1,000. There's our milli being 1,000. Right. This bar model shows that 1 metre is equal to 1,000 millimetres, as we've just said. Use the bar models to complete the conversions, which are these over here. We need to fill these boxes in. So here is the bar model that shows us 1 metre, and you can see those bars are exactly the same length to show us that they have the same value. Now what they've done is they've made this beautifully easy for us, because our 6 metres here, and look what they've done each time. They've given me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 metres. They've given me those 6 metres. So they've done it all for me. I just need to fill in the bottom part of each box. So what am I going to put here? I'm going to put 1,000 millimetres. And the same here, that's also 1,000 millimetres. I'm not going to put the each time because I'm going to run out of room. So to keep it as neat as I possibly can, I'm just going to put the measurements in. So there's our 6 metres, each with 1,000 millimetres. So how many millimetres have I got there? Can you tell me? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 millimetres. And the millimetres is already there. I don't even need to put it in. Okay, so the next one is now 3 metres. That's even easier, isn't it? So it'll be the same thing using this bar model up here. 1 millimetre is 1,000. 1 metre, sorry, is 1,000 millimetres. So each of those has got 1,000 in it. So how many have I got altogether? I've got 3,000. Lovely and easy. Now, This one's a bit trickier because it's the other way round. So if you just look back to this box up here, I've just cleared for you. If we just look back to this box, we've got the bottom part. So what are we going to put in the top part? We're going to put 1 metre, aren't we? So each of those is worth 1 metre. So can you tell me how many metres have we got in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 metres. Lovely and easy. Okay. Yesterday we looked at converting centimetres to millimetres and millimetres to centimetres. Today we're going to be looking at converting between centimetres and metres. So if we know that there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre, can we work out how many metres there are in 350 centimetres? So do you remember at the beginning of the lesson we talked about if we're going from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, which is what we're doing here, we're going from centimetres to metres, we're going from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, what do we do? Do we multiply or do we divide? We divide, don't we? So I know I'm going to be dividing. How many places am I going to move my digits? How many places? It's going to be 2 places this time, and that's because there are 100 centimetres in a metre. Yesterday there were only 10 millimetres in a centimetre, so we only moved them once. This time, because 100 has got 2 zeros, we're going to move it twice, because there are 100 this time units in our 100 of our smaller units in our bigger unit. Yesterday there was only 10, today there are 100. So we're going to move them 2 places, which means our 0 is going to actually fall off the chart, isn't it? Our 0 is going to go from here, jump over to here, and then go into here. So our 0 is going to fall off that chart into there. Our 5 is going to go 1, oh, not into there. 5 is going to go 1, 2, because we don't use the decimal point. So the 5 is going to go there, and then the 3, 1, 2 is going to go there. Now, is there anything there we don't need? I don't think we need that last 0. So I think our answer here is 3.5 metres. Do you remember we said yesterday all the digits are there? They've just been moved and then the placeholders have been adjusted. And that's what's happened here. We've got a 3 and a 5 in our original number. We've got a 3 and a 5 here. We've just moved them and adjusted the placeholders. So there it is, just to show you. It is, there are our 3 metre sticks and there is our 50 centimetres. But there's something quite interesting here. We can actually write this in 3 different ways. Now 2 of the ways are already on your screen in green. Here is way 1, here is way 2. There's a third way you can write that. One's in centimetres, one's in metres. I'm not talking about millimetres here, because we're working with centimetres and metres on this. So it's still going to be working with centimetres and metres. Can anyone work out how else we could say it? Just using centimetres and metres, not millimetres. I'm sure some of you could work it out in millimetres, but that's not what we want. Oh. Okay, let's have a look. Here's the other way. So we already had way 1, which was in centimetres only, 350. We had way 2, which was in metres, 3.5 metres. But we could also do this third way, which is a mix and match. It's when you do both. So you say it's 3 metres, 50 centimetres. And that's what you can see in the picture. 3 metres, 50 centimetres. You've got 3 metre sticks, 1, 2, 3, and then our 50 centimetres to finish off. So you could do it in both centimetres and metres and centimetres. Okay, I didn't want millimetres here. Okay, I'd really like you to have a go now at writing these measurements out in metres. Now don't forget, because you're going from a small unit here to a larger unit, you're going from centimetre, and I want you to convert to metres, you're going from small to large, you are going to divide, okay? And because there are 100 centimetres in a metre, you're going to divide by 100. So think about that on your place value chart. You know there are 100 centimetres in a metre, so you know that each one of these markers is worth how many? Each marker is worth 10 centimetres, which would be 0.1 or 1/10. Okay, so you will need a decimal for these two, so they're harder ones. Have a go, pause, and then come back when you're ready. Okay, hopefully you got here as your answer. The first two shouldn't have been too hard for you. If you know that there are 100 centimetres in 1 metre, you should know that there are 200 in 2 and 400 in 4. These ones might have been a bit trickier. So if we had 350 centimetres and we've got to divide it by 100 because there are 100 centimetres in a metre, our 0 again is going to fall off the end. Our 5 is going to get to here, and our 3 is going to get to here, so it would have been 3.5. Of course, you could, I don't know if any of you did this, but you could have written that in the third way, which is 3 metres 50 centimetres. Well done if you did do that. And for the last one, 960, the 0 would move 1, 2 and fall off the edge. The 6 would move 1, 2, don't forget we don't put it in the decimal point, and the 9 would move to here, which would make it 9.6 or 9 metres and 60 centimetres. Of course, when you do it that third way, you do need the 0 on the end because you are still working in multiples of 10 when it comes to the centimetres. If you left it off, it would be 9 metres and 6 centimetres, which wouldn't be correct because that 0.6 on the end is a tenth. It's here, it's 0.6 there, which is 60 centimetres. So you do need the 0 on the end when you're doing that third way. Okay, now you're going to have a go at the opposite. So because we're going from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, this time I want you to multiply by how many? 100, because there are 100 centimetres in a metre. So have a go at these. Those bottom two do have decimals, so be careful with those. Pause and have a go at those ones. Right, here are the answers for the questions you've just had. So again, excuse me, that top one shouldn't have been too tricky. If there are 100 in 1 metre, you should have been able to work out that there are 300 in 3 metres. And 14, even though that's a slightly bigger number because it's a two-digit number, you should still have been able to work out that there were 1,400 or 1,400. 8 metres shouldn't have been too tricky again. It's these decimals at the bottom. I wonder if any of you managed to work out how to write them two ways as well. So our decimal at the bottom here, we had 9.2. And don't forget, this time we are multiplying because we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. We are multiplying. How many places do we need to move the digits? We need to move them 2 places because we are multiplying by 100. 2 zeros on the end, so 2 places. So our 9 would jump over our 10s into our 100s. Our 2 would jump over our 1s into our 10s. And then, of course, we need to put that placeholder on. So that would be 920 centimetres. Or you could say 9 metres, 20 centimetres. And that last one, 4.8. Our 4, remember this 4 is also 4 holes. This 4 here, because it's in the ones column, it means it's 4 holes. And actually I could think straight away, well, those 4 holes must make sure that we've got 400. So they would already move to there. That's our 400 centimetres. And then the 0.8 would be here. And you can think of that as 0.1 would be 10 centimetres, wouldn't it? And then So our 0.5, for example, 0.5 would be 50 centimetres. So our 0.8 would be 80 centimetres. So you could think of it like that as well. So 480 centimetres or 4 metres, 80 centimetres. Okay, we're going to finish off today with another problem. It almost very similar to yesterday's. We've got Mo and Rosie today. Mo is going to measure what are they measuring? The length of the playground. Mo would like to measure it in metres. Rosie would like to measure it in centimetres. Which of those do you think is the most appropriate answer? It's a definite one this time, isn't it? By the way, in class yesterday with that paperclip, we actually looked at a paperclip here. And when they said the length of the paperclip, to me, that means, if I hold it up so you can see, to me, that means one end to the other. But to get 0.8, I think they must have measured it, the width of it, that way. I think that's the only way they get 0.8. So I don't think that was a very well worded question. Anyway, which would you use to measure the playground? Centimetres or metres? Which is more appropriate? It would definitely be metres. Metres for that one. Centimetres would take you far too long, and you'd have to keep measuring out using ruler after ruler after ruler after ruler, or you'd have to find a tape measure that's got centimetres on. It would be very difficult to do. Metres would be much easier. You can use metre sticks, or if you've got a trundle wheel, which are the wheels that you push along, and every time it goes past a metre it clicks, unless it's broken, which a lot of ours are. So trundle wheels would be a really good way to use. So metres definitely for the length of the playground. Okay. Rosie has measured the length of the playground as 563 centimetres. So she stuck to her guns, didn't she? She definitely decided she wanted to do it in centimetres. So 563 centimetres. How much is that in metres? Now, we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. So what do we need to do? We've got our smaller unit. We need to go to a larger unit. What are we going to do? How do we convert from this smaller unit to a larger unit? We are going to divide. And how many are we going to divide by? We're going to divide by 100 because there are 100 centimetres in a metre, which means moving our digits 2 places to the left. To the right. The other way I can look at this and think, well, look, how many whole metres have I got here? In my whole metre, I've got 100 centimetres. And here I've got 500, which means I've got 5 whole metres. And that leaves me with 63 centimetres. So there's already my answer in both. But that doesn't tell me how many it is in metres. So, remembering that the digits don't change, what do you think it would be in just metres? It's not going to be 6. 6 is too many, so it's going to be 5 something. Okay, well, our 563, if that's our hundreds, tens and ones, our 5 is going to jump 2 places into the ones, which means our 6, we're going to then have a decimal point, aren't we? Which means our, come on, let me draw a decimal point, thank you. Which means our 6 is going to jump 1, 2, pass that into the tenths, and our 3 is going to jump into the tenths and then into the hundredths. So it's 5.63 metres. Did you get that? 5.63. Well done if you did. And I will see you tomorrow, where we're going to continue converting length, and some of these slides you will see again and again, just to remind you.